Okay, hello Bao. I see you have a few questions about gel, and I'm too lazy to type an essay, so I'm going to just address it in a nice, quick little video. And yes, okay. So first thing you noted was no need of rotation. Bash, then show bash. That's good. Bash and show bash should always be how you start a rotation. There's an exception which I'll talk to in a minute. That also addresses your second question. So I'll leave that for now. But yes, bash into show bash is usually how you start your rotation, and then you will fin the skills from highest to lowest priority, as you said. Guardian Thunderbolt, leap attack, and not show shot. Actually, show charge. Show charge is your highest priority skill. I have your video pulled up for a later point I'm gonna make, but this show charge, it's Guardian Thunderbolt, leap attack, and then show charge. 1, 2, 3. This show shock, this is a filler. This is 4. This is your fourth is not a word. Fourth. This is your fourth highest priority skill, right? But otherwise, yeah, you pretty much have everything right? You want to go down your priority list: Guardian Thunderbolt, leap attack, and then show charge, and then show shock eventually, if and when you don't have anything else up, right? So there's that. And yes, you want to fit them all within bash and show bash windows. So you can either keep an eye on your attack buff on your taskbar, or not taskbar, buff bar. Oh my god, I'm out of it. It's 12 a.m. Cut me some slack. Or you can look at your bash cooldown. I don't know exactly how long it is, but like if your bash has like 2 or 3 seconds left on it, it's better to just save the rest of your skills and wait till like next rotation, I think, because that's usually when it ends. Because how long we can actually look back here, right? How long is the bash rotation? How long is the bash timer? 8 seconds, right? So the buff lasts for 6 seconds, I believe. So when there's like 2 seconds left, you know your buff is wearing out, right? Your buff has worn out already, so you can stop your rotation there. But yes, you have the right idea. The idea is right. Okay, your first question is, when I want to taunt donuts or fly away, but I'm already in turtle mode, do you recommend turning off shield and then taunt? Here's the thing. You typically will never taunt when you're in turtle mode already, and here's why. Let me explain, right? So there is a very specific period. There's like when you want to taunt, right? When you want to interrupt a boss pattern, there's typically like a checklist that you go down, right? First thing is taunt up. Yes, okay. Then you go on to the next thing. Let me list the things that you want to check for is whether taunt's up, whether boss has taunt immunity, or, and third, this is most important, whether the boss is idling or not, right? And I'll explain what that means in a second. But typically, you will go down the list. You'll be like, is my taunt up? Yes. Does the boss have taunt immunity? No, which means you can taunt. And then, okay, that's good. And then, is the boss idling? And here's what I mean, right? So you know how in between every pattern Morpheus does, boss kind of like stands still for a minute, right? He kind of idles, he like does his turn or whatever, and he essentially gets ready for next pattern, right? During that time, that period of time is when you want to get ready to taunt. And I'll show it to you right here, right, real quick, right? So let's say, like here, I think I found this moment earlier. So you see you have taunt up. The boss has no taunt timer, so that's 2 checks. And so you move on to the third, right? Is the boss idling? No, the boss is not idling right now. He's doing kick, which means, well, you're too far right now. But if you were closer, you can DPS it, right? This is your time to be in turtle mode and to DPS, right? So let's fast forward a little bit. He kicks. After he kick, right, when he enters the idling mode, if you're able to taunt, this is when you want to get out of turtle stance, right? If all the stars align, right? If all the taunt conditions meet, and if Morpheus is idling, that's when you want to essentially always be out of turtle mode. Because first of all, if he's idling, he can't hurt you. Being in turtle mode achieves nothing. Second of all, being out of turtle mode allows you to get ready to taunt and gain shields at the same time, right? So right here, it's perfect fine. You can be in turtle mode, doesn't really matter. But after he kicks, like right now, I would stop using skills. Right here, I would stop using skills. I would be in turtle mode and I would be ready. And here's what you typically want to do, right? When he's idling, you want to draw essentially boxes around them. Actually, I'm explaining this kind of a bad way, but let me draw this point first, right? When you are about to taunt, you want to be in one of 2 zones around Morpheus. I want you to draw essentially like a tic-tac-toe board around him, kind of like this, right? like a tic-tac-toe board where Morpheus is in the middle, right? The two zones that you want to be in is the top left in front of him and to the right, or in front of him and to the left, right? Right here. These two zones is where you want to be, right? And here's why, right? I'll elaborate a little more on this in a second. There's more nuances, there's more depth to basically just get in front of these boxes and just wait there, right? But these are the areas relative to Morpheus that you want to be in, and here's why. Because Morpheus does not have a lot of patterns that can push you if you're in one of these two boxes, right? The only pattern that he can push and interrupt your taunt when you're in one of these boxes is either turn dash, I think, but you'll have enough time to react to that, as I will mention later, and why I'll mention later in a second. But also the swing. He can swing forward. He can do like the double hand swing thing into the X, right? Into the ground slam that he does sometimes, right? And that's like the only pattern he can hit. He can potentially hit you while you're in these boxes. And that pattern is reactable, right? You can react and taunt it, and he won't be able to hit you. So essentially, if you're here, you are immortal with your showdown. He doesn't have skills to hit you, right? So that's one of the reasons why you want to be in one of these boxes. And second of all, you might be like, oh, why can't I just stand like here behind them? It's because when you taunt, you're going to turn the boss this way, and your DPS is going to clap your cheeks later for being a little bitch. That's why you want to stay in the front boxes, okay? But essentially, the principle is that whenever he's idling, like we'll fast forward a little bit, like let's wait. He's idling, right? You want to be in those, again, draw these boxes, and you want to be in those boxes in front of him, right? And it's not as easy as this video might contain a lot. I realized I forgot to cover a lot of stuff in my Vikings video, and these ideas have been just building in my mind. So thank you for asking the question. Now I can just dump them. I'm so sorry. You're so welcome. I don't know, one of those things. And here's another thing, right? As you can see here, the boxes are in front of him, right? You can draw these boxes here, but Morpheus might turn. He always turns to target someone, right? So these boxes are going to shift. And most of the time, since you're Gunlancer party, a lot of your DPS is going to be positionals. So they're going to be like lined up here. So what you actually want to do is you want to stack kind of with your positionals, so you know which way Morpheus is going to turn. Because Morpheus is going to turn, right? He's going to turn towards one of you. And if all your teammates are stacked, he's probably going to turn towards them, right? So if you stack... go away, my sequel. So if you stack with your teammates, you can predict where Morpheus is going to turn. In this case, he's going to turn this way, right? You can draw the boxes out. He's going to turn this way, right? So you don't want to think, you don't want to visualize where Morpheus currently is facing and draw the boxes from there. For example, in this case, it would be here and here, right? Because he's facing this way. You don't want to draw those. You want to essentially visualize where he's going to turn and draw boxes from there. So for example, here it will be here and here, right? Kind of right next to your DPS. And that is where you want to be. These boxes are where you want to be in order to get ready to taunt, because look here, he's going to turn towards either you or your teammate, and if you're in those boxes, he turns towards your teammate, right? He turns towards your teammate and he started doing this pattern, right? So if you were in, let's see, so if you follow kind of like the idea, right? Like right here, what I would do personally is I would stay, okay, I might greed like a show shock here or whatever, just like a one cooldown kind of quick skill that doesn't really matter if I get a bash window on, right? Whatever. I would maybe fit in the show shock here, and I will wait because he's about to go idle. I will wait here, right? I will wait, and I would move into either here or here because I know, once again, Morpheus is going to turn. He's going to turn this way, so he's going to front face this way. This box is to his side here and here, right? I will move into one of these green boxes, and I will wait. I will wait for a pattern, right? I will wait for a pattern, and he turns. He gets ready, and while you're waiting in those boxes, by the way, you don't need your turtle stance on because he usually can't hit you, right? He usually can't hit you. unless it's like this pattern, which you can react to beforehand. So he almost will never hit you unless you're super unlucky and got clipped or something, right? But usually he will never hit you. So I will go into one of those green boxes, right? I will go into one of those green boxes and then we'll wait. And then at the first sign, this is what I used to do before I started like understanding the patterns tells more, right? At the first sign of movement, right? Like here, when he's idling, he has a different animation than when he starts moving, right? When he's idling, he's all like stood up. He's like his wings flapping. He's in this like nice stood up posture, right? As soon as I see him slouch over just a little bit, or whenever I see like the start of any pattern, and this is what I would do beforehand, right? When I see the start of any pattern, I would taunt. In this case, right now, I would taunt. And I would essentially save this pattern, right? I mean, and this pattern isn't the worst to taunt. It's not the best to taunt. It's not the worst taunt, but it's a pattern that you can taunt. And at this point, in my opinion, and this differs vastly between different gun lancers, right? A lot of gun lancers tell you, oh, don't taunt feathers. Oh, don't taunt, this pattern. Don't taunt that pattern. And this is something for you to figure out, like what you like taunting, what your team likes taunting, right? And this is just things that you can figure out. But my general philosophy or my general taunt pattern is I taunt essentially everything that is not a the cone, the three lines into the cone, the lasers. I taunt essentially everything besides lasers, because laser is just the best long DPS pattern. And sometimes I don't taunt feathers either if I see it. And if my team's like, sometimes I do it just because, someone might get like if I have like a scrapper or something and they are like hugging the boss, I might taunt feathers. But sometimes I mean, feather, it depends. It literally just depends vastly on our team. Because there's gun lancers out there like taunting anything other than donuts or flyaway is sacrilege, and we will burn you at the stake if you taunt anything else. And I tell them to fuck off because I don't care enough about my DPS. And then there's other gun lancers like me, which will just tell you to taunt everything. I don't give a fuck. If they miss the lasers, oh well, boohoo, suck it up. I don't know what to tell you. So this is up to you. This is something for you to figure out. This is something for you to know, like essentially what you like taunting and what you don't like taunting. But that is essentially what I did, and that's how you can get more consistent taunts. So remember, draw those boxes and first of all, go down checklist, right? Do you have taunt up? Yes. Does the boss have taunt immunity? No. Okay, I will wait for the next idle state. I will draw those green boxes. I will predict where Morpheus is going to go. I will draw those green boxes in my head. I will stand in one of them with my turtle stance down, and then I can taunt, right? And that's how you get basically consistent taunts with like very consistent interrupts without ever being in turtle stance. So to answer your first question, you should not be in turtle stance. And to further answer your first question, if the pattern is super dangerous, like donuts, fly away, or some other shit like that, yes, always prioritize taunt over your shields, because gun lancers can get shields in a lot of ways, and missing out on a little bit of damage is much better than missing like a donut taunt or like a fly away taunt, because the uptime that you get from donuts or fly away and the threat that it reduces is so much higher. So there you go, 2 parts. Just to review, if you follow my method, go back, listen to it. If it's unclear, you can always let me know. I'll try to explain. I'll try to like go into like a Vicus and show you, but or like study more VODs and show you. But just to review, no, you generally shouldn't be in turtle stance, and yes, it's always worth taunting over bad patterns only, like donuts or flyaway. So there's question number 1. Oh god, I spent like 15 minutes on that. Jesus Christ. Question number 2: is it okay to use leap attack to reposition if the boss dashes away? I'm assuming you're gonna talking about G1. In which case, you have better options. I mean, yes, if you land at least one hit, then I mean, yes, I've done it before, but you have better options. For example, Gunlancer has a lot of movement. Some people might not think it, but Gunlancer can move. Because first of all, you have show charge, right? This, again, when you want to reposition using a skill, you want to go down the priority list, right? In this case, here's your priority list, right? From lowest to highest, with 1 being the lowest, right? 1 being the lowest, and 8 being the highest, right? Actually, let's do 6, because Nella and Taunt doesn't count. So 6 being the highest, right? So Actually, that's a show way of doing it. We'll do this in terms of damage. We'll do this in terms of damage potential, or like your damage priority, right? With 1 being like the highest DPS, high DPS, all the way to 6 being the low DPS, right? Actually, let's do 5 because bash also doesn't really count. And here's your skills, right? Your number 1 is always going to be the Guardian's Thunderbolt. This is 1, right? That's your highest priority. Your 2 is going to be Leap Attack, right? Your 3, that looks like a 1. Let's do this. Your 3 is going to be Shield Charge. And I think, actually, I don't remember. I think 4 is actually Shield Bash, and 5 is Shield Shock, right? And these two could be switched. I don't necessarily remember, because I did see something that I saw something that showed that Shield Bash actually does like an insane amount of damage, but I don't play blue enough to know. So these two, you can kind of think of them as like interchangeable, but doesn't matter, right? So when you think of repositioning, a repositioning is essentially a DPS loss, right? You're just taking the L on that skill. It's a DPS loss essentially on that skill, right? Unless you can connect with some of it, like either Leap Attack or Shield Charge, right? So you want to use your least important skills first, and then your highest priority skills to reposition, right? In this case, if the boss is close enough, you can do something like a back hop into a Shield Bash. A back hop into a Shield Bash actually gets you really far, because a back hop gets you like from here to like here, right? And the Shield Bash gets you from here to like there, maybe even like a little further, right? That's a lot of distance that you cover with just like a tiny little combo. This gets you like farther. I feel like this gets you farther, but it gets you somewhere within this range, right? Which is a lot of distance, and you don't really lose out on much because it's a Shield Bash, right? So that's your first option. That's sometimes I would do that even without the bash, because it doesn't matter. I don't care. It's a Shield Bash, right? I can just fit a Shield Bash in my next bash rotation later. It's not the end of the world if you miss a bash under. If you miss a Shield Bash in the bash window, right? Second of all is Shield Charge. This skill was your movement skill in Helton, and here is also going to be a sub DPS, aka or movement skill, because this skill is like what, third highest on the priority, and you can use the movement. It's lower than Leap Attack, which means it's a better option for movement, and it's essentially just a movement skill, right? Because it's Shield Charge. You literally charge with the shield. It's kind of in the name. So I would use this skill. If you don't have any better options like back hopping or shield bashing, I would use this skill over Leap Attack for repositioning, and it's just a better and easier tool for repositioning too. So I would personally use this over Leap Attack on repositioning. But if you're really out of options, like let's say your Shield Charge is on CD, and you really don't have any better options, and the boss is like a mile away, then I would use Leap Attack. Then I would try to use Leap Attack as a reposition skill. But yes, hope that answers your question. It is okay to use Leap Attack, but you have better options. So try to think of those options before you use Leap Attack. Do you dodge or DPS during raindrops? Let me keep reading. For Q1, I have conflicting advice to taunt even when I'm turtle mode right. Okay. Do I dodge or DPS during raindrops? Raindrops, I'm assuming, is the pattern. Let me see if I can find it, where he flies up, and this one, right? You're talking about this one where he does this, right? I will always try to taunt raindrops if it isn't obvious enough, if you can. But to answer your question, I dodge. I dodge. First of all, because I'm playing Red GL, right? So most of the time I dodge. And here's a little bit of there's a little bit of difference between Red GL. I dodge and I greet at the same time. And it depends on the situation, but it's a Red GL, a small Red GL attack that I'll discuss later. But typically I dodge because first of all, it saves your shield, and second of all, the uptime that you're losing on dodging is not that high. It's not that much. It's really not that much. And I don't exactly know how well this plays for blue GL, but my advice would be it's entirely dependent on your shield gauge. If you have a high shield gauge, I mean, sure, why not? Just greed. You know, your blue gel, you get shields back pretty quickly, and you have a lot of it. So why not? You can tank one of those inner things. It won't be that bad. But if you're playing red gel, I would only greed if you have counter gun lens. I would only greed if you have counter gun lens. But we'll see here, right? Like, first of all, if he leaps up, right? You always dodge the first three. You always dodge these three. These three hurt. You dodge the fourth one. This also hurts. And then he does this, right? He does one big AoE, which is seen here, right? And he does these little AoEs around like each player. And here's the thing. This shit fucking hurts. This shit hurts. If you get hit, like sometimes these like small AoEs it didn't happen in this case, but sometimes these small AoEs can overlap with the big AoEs like this. And if you're in this area, right here, your shield meter gets absolutely fucking melted. It's insane. Like, you take a shit ton of damage. So that's why I say it's conditional. You want to see whether your shield meter is high. Because if your shield meter is high, yeah, you can tank the big AoE, you can tank the small AoE, you can even tank them both together. You'll be fine. But if your shield meter is low, I mean, dodge. It's not worth greeting for it, because at most you'll get one skill. And even if you dodge, just think back on when we talked movement, right? You have a lot of movement options. You can backstep into shield bash. You can shield charge into the boss. You can essentially do whatever, and it's perfectly fine, right? And there was something else that I wanted to talk about. That was specific to blue gel that I kind of forgot, but what was it that I think I have dementia. This is not good. This is not ideal. But let's just, maybe it'll come back to me. Maybe it's not important. But we'll like, let's see. Like, look at this. How much damage did you? Let's see. You tanked one. That doinked like what, a quarter of your shield plus some of your health. And you're blue gel. You have a shit ton of shields. So it hurts like hell. This shit like hurts. Even with the big thing, this shit hurts. It's a huge shield investment for what, like one cooldown's worth of attack power. So it's, I don't personally think it's worth it. Oh, I remember what I talked about. Yeah, okay. So you don't have to stay in this. By the way, you don't have to stay in this. You can just walk out of it, and for several reasons. Because I don't exactly know how he does his targeting thing when he does that big AoE, but I found it to be easier to dodge out of the bit. Like, if he chooses you for the big AoE, it's much easier to dodge out of it if you are moving, right? It's much easier to dodge out of it if you are moving. Okay, there's a lot to get into on this pattern. I have to make like a list of points, because there's a lot of like, what happens if something this happens, what happens if that happens in this pattern. But we'll just go through like some basic cases, right? Basic cases is if you have high shield, if you have low shield, if he targets you with a big AoE, if he doesn't target you with a big AoE, like what should you do, right? If you have high shield as blue gel, I just fuck it. I mean, if you have cooldowns, if a lot of your cooldowns are up, I would just greed, right? If you don't have cooldowns, then don't greed, right? It doesn't matter if you have shields or not. If you have a low shield, I would not greed. I would just dodge, right? Easy enough. If he targets you with a big AoE, then, I mean, it doesn't really matter how much shield you have. It's kind of hard for blue gel to get out, so you might as well just tank the hit in your turtle stance and greed. But if he targets you with a small AoE, then, I would just dodge. I would dodge, and I would go on and back hop, shield charge, or just walk over, and because I don't think the damage you gain is that high. Like, look at this. He's gonna land, right? By the way, yeah, get out of the circle, because when you keep moving, first of all, it's easier for you to get to where he is if you're already moving, and it's easier for you to dodge like the little circle or the big circle if you're already moving. So I would not stay in this circle. I would keep moving. So let's see, right? Let's see. Like, when he lands, he doesn't land like the AoE is big, but like, look at this. It doesn't take long. Like, look, he's here, right? He's there. You can see him. He's there, and the AoE expands like here. It's not that, like, it's like one step. You can back hop into it. Like, your back hop covers the distance from like here to there, right? You can literally one back hop and you're at the boss. You're at Morpheus. So, is it really worth it? Do you need that, one cooldown, one skill that badly that you will rather sacrifice like half of your shield meter to greet it? That's a choice for you to figure out, right? It's a choice for you to figure out. But if you target you with a big AoE, you're fucked, right? It's hard for Gunlancer to get out. So if you target you with a big AoE, just tank it and greet it. But otherwise, I personally would not greet it. So that might be a little convoluted. Let me know if you have any more questions, or if you want me to explain that further, or if you want me to find some like clips of that specific pattern so I can show you whether I will greet or whether what I'm thinking during that pattern. But that's a general idea, right? Again, if you have high shields and like a lot of CDs off cooldown, then yeah, go ahead and greet it. Otherwise, I personally wouldn't greet it. Oh, also, if you have big AoE on you, then I would just greet it. I would just take that out and greet it. So hope that helps. Sorry, this is like 30 minutes. Oh my god. I think something else. I'm gonna screw around a conversation because you guys had like a whole topic. You guys had a whole talk while I was making this video. So let me see. Turbo, blah blah blah. Yeah. So Q1 conflicting advice to taunt when I'm in turtle mode rather than risk him getting away or doing donuts. Yeah, remember, if you just keep the advice that I gave earlier, which is like stand those little green boxes, you're never gonna be in turtle mode when you're about to taunt. So there it is. And yes, I will parrot. If you are somehow caught in turtle mode and he's about to do donuts, I would taunt before getting out of the shield. But just Esper, if they don't dash for, you can leap after. Yes, kind of. Yeah, I mean, Rev was kind of right. Your pain's too bad. Then, taunt it. Shield don't matter on blue. Shield does matter on blue. Shield does matter on blue, by the way, because most of your skills doesn't have push immunity. So if you don't have shield, you essentially cannot burst for the next however long. So at least have a little shred of shield, right? Even a little bit of shred of shield can give you super armor. Then that's what you need. Blue gel sucks ass without super armor. So, lose 10 seconds uptime. You're not gonna lose 10 seconds of uptime. it's usually fine. But yes, taunt. Yes, taunt is. Oh, taunt or lose. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, taunt. Just spacebar. Yeah, spacebar. If they don't dash and you can leap after. Remember, priority system. She'll bash after. She'll charge after, and then if you're out of those options, and then you can leap. Goblin mode, drinking about 3. Why wouldn't you DPS so if you have shield? I guess what's the cost benefit? Is it worth greeting? Are you talking about air raid? Because you can walk in there and it's literally like, look at this. We'll see where he is. Right? Like he was like there. The area is like there. I mean, you went back up. It's like it's not that far, right? That's the whole, like you're saving what, like half of a second of time. You'll be fine. Let's say I have half gauge Nella and Turtle. I could greet DPS, right? Are you talking about yes, but I don't know what you're greeting. A bash, hooray! I mean, yeah. If you have half, also half null isn't gonna. I mean, yeah. I guess if you really wanted to, you go ahead, but like, honestly, now I'm thinking about it. If you have half gauge, Nella, and Turtle, yeah. If you have Nella, you just greet. Nella's insane. I forgot you had Nella. I didn't. For some reason, my brain did. If you have Nella, greet. If you have Nella, you can greet everything. You can't even greet kick if you have Nella. Just don't get hit by those two first become, because the kick shreds like Nella and like a little bit of your gauge. So even if you have if you have Nella, you can survive anything. Why would you not greet, right? That's the thing. Nella is an end all be all. Especially if you're stacking with all 4 people. When the fuck are you gonna stack with all 4 people? That's the main thing. If everyone's if everyone's stacked together, you guys just die. Does gel do fuck all damage in G3? Yes. No damage, which is agreed. Ego greed. I mean, yeah, I guess you can greed, but it's up to you. Yeah. Even if gel in front and BA in the back, for what, rain? What the fuck? Why the fuck is everyone stacked together? Isn't the play for rain just everyone spread? 3 drops in out. Oh, you're talking raindrops, like the. Oh, that's not what we're talking about. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's not what Revel was talking about. That's what you were talking about. Yeah. I hope that was that the right pattern. Did I explain the right pattern? Oh my god, if I didn't. Okay, just to cover my bases, right? are like the ground pound, right? If it's a ground pound pattern, not this rain pattern, this is like dive or whatever. Sometimes I call it rain, but the ground pound, right? The 3 pounds, the 3 ground pounds. It's always never worth greeting that pattern because that pattern hurts way too much. Because think about it, you're tanking 1, 2, 3 raindrops. Each of them does like what, like an ungodly amount of damage, and you're also potentially tanking an in out. That's your whole fucking shield meter. Like even if I have Nella, I wouldn't tank that. You're taking like 4 hits from Morpheus. That's a lot of hits. Like even with Nella, you would be down like half of your shield gauge, maybe even more. I personally would not tank that unless I had like a support ulti or something like support DR me. If I like support ulti, then yeah, I can tank it. But even with Nella, I might just be like whatever. The uptime is not worth it. I just lose like 3-4 seconds of uptime, and like even if you really want to greet that pattern, what you can do is you can dodge the first three, right? Okay, let's pretend like okay, hold on. Let me fast forward a little bit so you can see Morpheus. Okay, oh fuck me. Okay, find. Okay, okay, he stands. Okay, let's pretend like he started doing the raindrops, right? What you can do, instead of tanking 3 rains and just go into turtle stance, Nellaing and tanking 3 rains, we can also don't Nella on rain. Unless your DPS really wants to greed, I would not Nella on rain. It's not good. It's not, people aren't going to die from that pattern, right? Just save Nella for like donuts or some shit in case someone fucks up. Or save Nella for Zaya, like this pattern. This pattern, sometimes, like when Ollie and I play together, Ollie would DR the first one, and I would DR the second one, work a system out with their support. But let's pretend like he's doing rain here, right? What we can do is you can make a loop-de-loop. You can make like a small, maybe not that big, like even like a small loop-de-loop around. He's right, because he's gonna drop 1 puddle here, 1 puddle here, and like maybe 1 puddle here, right? There's gonna be your 3 raindrops, and by the time you get back, it doesn't matter in or out. You'll only tank 1, and you can gain, a lot, like half of the uptime that you lose from just dodging this pattern normally by. Instead of tanking all 3, you will only tank 1. So for rain, for that one, for the ground pound rain, that's what I would do in particular. I would make this loop around and I would greed. I would just, doesn't matter if it's in or out, I would greed. So hope that explains it. If you want me to find some examples or video of examples later, I'll do it. Yes. Bumpy says blue gel is DPS. Blue gel is DPS. Yes, you greed. But for raindrops, remember, Alden, you don't want to tank all 3 of those raindrops because that shit hurts. That drains your shield. So you want to save your shield for other patterns like Zaya. You can greed this pattern. Like, I can even keep going. Like, let's see. This pattern, you can very easily greed with some shields on blue side, because on purple side, he phases towards you. Like, I wouldn't stand still here. You have full shield gauge. I would just greed this pattern. Don't let you can taunt. Again, so you look, right? Look, you do a checklist, right? You have taunt up. In this case, hey, going back to the taunt question, you have taunt up, there's no taunt immunity buff, right? He's about to go idle right here. I would be idling too. I would not be greeting. I would be idling. You see, and he immediately goes into donuts, right? So during that time, if you were ready, if you were idled, if you're in those quadrants, just press S and you're good to go, right? You're good to go. At any sign of movement, that's how you catch donuts. Is if like when I first started playing, I didn't know what the toe for donuts is. So I kind of I preempted every pattern, and I would miss taunt lasers too. Like if you watch back on some of my VODs, you would see, oh, he taunted a laser. What a fucking idiot. Because I was trying to predict, right? I was predicting. Because purple donuts at that time was hard for me to taunt. Purple dash at that time was hard for me to taunt. But with a preemptive taunt, when I see him flinch, when I see him looking out of his corner of his eye at me wrong, I would taunt. And I will catch donuts. I will catch dashes. I will catch other things that, it's like a cheat code, right? It's essentially a cheat code for you to catch taunts. And eventually, as you go on, you'll see the pattern. You'll see the patterns more. You'll learn what the first few frames of a pattern looks like, and that's when you can start taunting donuts. That's when you can start taunting. Well, you can taunt donuts before that. Donuts is quote unquote reactable, but with your ping, it's more reliable to preemptive it. And by preemptive, I don't mean to taunt while he's idling. Like right here, when he's idling, I would not taunt. But when you see him move, when you see those purple lines appear, that's when I would taunt. Or when you see him do like any slightest movement that's not an idle animation, I would taunt. I hope that's clear. That sounded unclear, but whatever. And yes, blue gel is DPS. Like any DPS, because like think about it like this, right? Blue gel can do like what, upwards of, I think JMZ did like 3 mil or some shit on G1 or G2, whatever, right? That's 3 mil less that your DPS has to do compared to like if you were expertise. So especially in G1, that's kind of important, right? Like 1 mil, if you do 1 mil DPS, that is, you can think of it potentially as an additional 500k DPS to each of your DPSs. Imagine however much, like 4 mil or some shit. Like imagine the wildest amount that your DPS could be doing, like 5 mil, fucking 4 or 5 mil, right? Add another 500k to that. They could be doing 5.5 instead of 5. That's a big difference. Like if you put that into that perspective, that's a big difference. That's why every shred of DPS counts. Like your DPS matters, because unlike expertise where you only do like 100k or however many 100k that you do, you're doing upwards millions, right? Your DPS starts to matter. The little bit adds up, right? And that additional 1 with DPS could be a faster, like what, 30, 40, 50-second phase, and that's why I keep telling people that your DPS actually matters as Gunlancer. Unless you're playing expertise, then fuck you, fuck all. So yes, yes, always got some boys. CC just with it. Yes, Gel could do the same. Yeah, again with a rain pattern, make a little loop-de-loop around, right? Make a little loop-de-loop around. Because the main damage from rain comes from the 3 little things. So make a loop-de-loop around, make like a tiny loop around, dodge the 3 rains, and then you can greet. You can even tank like the last rain if you really wanted to. You can take 1 rain and 1 in-out explosion, you'll be fine. So everything is worth greeting about, not for blue Gunlancer. So somehow did that, blah blah blah. Confirmed greeting in Velga. I was testing. What were you greeting about on Gunlancer? I hope you're talking about Bard. I really hope you were not talking about Gunlancer. Jesus Christ. 9% blah blah blah. 1% lost our training on some gamma addicts. Yada yada. Blame Lost Ark for his urges. Then you want to know blocking pre-Lost Ark. I think that's it, right? Is that all the? Oh my god, I'm dying. Oh, is that all the things that happened? Work at retail. Did you guys didn't ask any more questions after that, right? Still waiting for Bumsy's answer. Bumsy is recording a video, all right? Frick you. Frick you, bozo. Bumsy is recording a 37, oh my god, it's 37 minutes. Oh, fuck me. All right, I'm going to end recording there. Have a good night or morning or wherever you are. And have fun watching this.